right? So from the Democrats.
Well, yeah, but let's talk about that. No. You're
Right.
mixing the principle that people are talking about. It's ethics. The man told Mike Pence not to certify the election. The man called the Secretary of State, or was it governor? I forget, and asked for 11,072 votes. The man has stolen from more hardworking Americans.
You were against Trump in
than
2016, though. You were against Trump in 2016.
Right, but he was unethical then, and he's still unethical.
And in 20, right?
That's right, but that's the whole point. I actually started off supporting Donald, and then I got to know him better.
When did you support him?
Like 2015, I was like, he's great. He's he's not a typical Stepford candidate. I thought that was a positive.
I would think you think that's a positive, right? A business guy who's pretty practical.
But then I got to know
not
him.
Ideological.
A big part of that is I didn't think he had a chance, and so I just wanted to kind of screw things up in traditional politics that I'm not a fan of.
Okay,
but the bigger
supportive. Okay, that's kind of funny.
Right. But the bigger point is Trump University, Trump Soho, stole $4 million from a friend of mine that had sued to get it back. Mike Pence, 40 out of 44 people.
Just take a look at the 4 years, because each of these are just going to be separate sort of personal attack rabbit holes. Look at the country in those 4 years.
No, they're not personal attack rabbit holes. They're legitimate things that actually happened.
So do you think the country, do you think the economy prospered and border crossing issues were far better under Donald Trump under those 4 years than they've been in the last 4 years? You disagree on that premise too?
No, because if you look at border crossing, what was Obama's nickname? The deporter in chief. Mm-hmm. If you look at actual crossings, they were lower under Obama. And when Obama came in, they were higher, and he continued to lower them until the last couple months. On the economy, Obama took a fucked up economy and improved it, and Trump inherited that, right? And actually, inflation grew by 25% under Trump over Obama. And what was the third one?
You guys, border and economy is where I started talking about.
Right.
So, look, we hit the all-time low on border crossings in about 2019, 2020. Okay.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure?
It's actually the chart that Trump was turning to when he got shot, right? That was exactly
right, but that doesn't make it right.
It went up in the first 2 years, but then they only implemented the Trump controls about a year and a half to 2 years.
Let's just put that off to the side, and we'll check that to make sure that border crossings weren't lower under him.
The lowest point was lower than it's ever been. The lowest point, I'm not saying the average, but the lowest points was lowest than it's ever been. Yeah.
Okay, we'll check. But Obama deported a multiple of the number of illegals that Trump deported.
Which you're in favor of, by the way? Are you in favor of deportation?
I don't have a problem if they're here illegally. Just do it compassionately. Don't just stick them in a cage. But I have no problem with removing people who are here illegal, particularly recent. Because who knows the number, 10 million, 11 million, whatever it is. But you can't just all of a sudden, how you approach it is critical. And Trump has not said a word about it yet. Well, and he's been talking about it forever. But again, that's not the core issue. You want to talk about
lives. That is a core issue. Crime and economy.
I get that. But you know what? The one certainty about the office of the President of the United States is the complete uncertainty, that you have no idea what comes next. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And so in my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds that oppose Donald Trump, is that you want somebody there that is educated on the world, but more importantly, just is ethical, right? So that they make ethical decisions. You want somebody when there is no precedent, it's never happened before. You want somebody that has hired not people who are most loyal, like Tony Soprano might have done, but hired the very best people. And those people want to stay and work for them, not that they're loyal. You want somebody whose first inclination is not to do what's in their own best personal interest.
So
right?
Can I just say,
you can't deny that's Donald Trump.
That was Mark Cuban absolutely destroying Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek tried to defend Donald Trump, but instead got picked apart by Mark, who made multiple great points that Vivek was just unable to properly counter. So let's go ahead and do a deep dive into those points. points. First, Mark said that everything was all about ethics, and that Donald Trump told Mike Pence to not certify the results of the election, and how he told the Secretary of State in Georgia to find over 11,000 votes. And then Vivek chimes in and says, well, you still didn't like him in 2016, which is just such a stupid rebuttal. Just because Mark Cuban was listing things that happened towards the end of his presidency does not mean that Trump was completely ethical in 2016. There is just so much stuff about Trump that it's just better at this point to pick the most obvious and easy to understand things to make discussion about it easier. So no, Vivek, smart people don't need to wait until someone openly starts an insurrection to see that they're truly unethical. Next, Mark Cuban says that he initially was supporting Trump and wanted to see what he had to offer, but when he learned more about him, he realized that he didn't want to support him anymore. Then Mark brings up a few points that Vivek labels as personal attack rabbit holes, which is just dumb and not true. And Mark points that out because they are true things that happened that truly define who Trump is as a person. And it's insane that Trump supporters will look at the thousands of things that Trump has done and say, oh, well, he's still a good person who has my best interest in mind. Like, it just baffles me how these people are functioning adults. Next, they get onto the discussion of the border, and I think Mark makes a great point here. The right seems to think that the left doesn't want any sort of border control at all, and that's just not the case. The big thing that the left is talking about is we don't want people being treated inhumanely, because at the end of the day, they're just looking for a better life, and since people on the left are able to empathize with people, we can see that that doesn't make them terrible people. And honestly, if we were in the same position, we would probably make the same decision. And that's what Mark was saying here. He was saying that we need to approach it compassionately, and that the way that we do approach it is what matters most of all. So I think this was a great point that really shows the ethics between the right and the left. The final thing that Mark leaves off on, at least in the clip that we're covering today, is that we need and want someone who is stable and predictable. Donald Trump is an unstable ticking bomb, and having him in the presidency is a complete liability. Not to mention, he's just completely unethical and only hires the people who will be loyal to him, not the people best for the job. So Mark Cuban was saying that that should be the defining feature and should really drive people away from Donald Trump. But overall, Mark Cuban made some absolutely amazing points here that completely destroyed Vivek Ramaswamy. It's so hard to believe that people can watch clips like this and still think that Trump is a good candidate to be president. But then again, people who are still voting for him don't really care about all of the horrible things that he's done, they just want a dictator.